I am so very, very pleased to be here. And as John Ossoff spoke, he said, "Can you hear me in the back?" And I remember Paul Sarbanes used to love to tell a story where he was in a crowd, probably a little smaller than this, and somebody in the back said, "I can't hear you." Immediately, a person in the front got up, said, "I can, and I'll trade places." I am not going to challenge you to do that. I am so pleased to be here. I'm going to read off this pretty soon, but I wanted to say a few things. First of all, I came in just as the instructions were being given, and you must all be very literalist, because they said stand up, and all of us stood up, and the board was disappearing among us. So there we are. John Miles, I want to say hello to you. John Miles and I just took a picture, and John Miles said what so many people now do when they take a picture. He's known me since I was that high. I have known you since you were that high, John Miles, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here to hear what you already know about the extraordinary man who was your dad, and the extraordinary woman, Lillian, who was your mother. I had the privilege of knowing them both. I want to say something about another person. God gave us John Lewis to bless our lives and bless our country. And then God gave John Lewis Michael Collins. Michael was not only a blessing to John, but to all of us who are close to John, all of us who worked in the Congress with John and with Mike were blessed by Mike Collins. What a wonderful, wonderful person he is, and what a blessing he was to John and to all of us. "57 years ago," I was 5 or 6. Those politicians lie, have you noticed? 57 years ago, I remember seeing images of a young man clad in his beige trench coat and backpack and leading a peaceful procession across the Edmund-Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. He led as he lived, with quiet dignity. I, like many others, watched in horror as state troopers sent by George Wallace and others, vigilantes, beat him and his followers with billy clubs, whips, and cattle prods. All of us have heard John tell that story. And we saw those horses charge, and we saw those billy clubs raised. I was, as I'm sure all of you who had the opportunity to see it, and most of you are too young to have seen it live, I understand that, or many of you at least. I also felt, in addition to outrage, profound admiration for this man, who was even younger than me, who embodied the same principles of freedom, peace, justice, and compassion that had first inspired me to get involved in public service and work on civil rights work in Prince George's County, Maryland, and advocate for fair housing in 1966 when I first ran for the Maryland State Senate. John Lewis was an inspiration to all of us. I could never have foretold that I would one day get to call him my friend, but more importantly, my brother. And when John called you his brother, it wasn't just a, "Hey, brother," offhand comment. It was a, "We are brothers, real brothers." That was John Lewis for me. Neither could I have imagined that I would walk arm in arm with John Lewis honored and inspire 15 times across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Carrie walked with us a number of those times. A number of you that I've seen in this room walked with us across that bridge. And we remembered when John walked across that bridge, danger was on the other side. The troopers were there to stop the free, peaceful vote action that they were conducting. The troopers were there to protect us. But we so admired the courage of John Lewis in thinking of that commemoration as we walked across that bridge and we got to the top of it and he spoke to us. Serving with John for over 3 decades in Congress will remain one of my greatest privileges in life. His confidence, conviction, calm demeanor, and commitment to getting into good trouble, as so many people have said already, served him well through his long tenure. Never be afraid to make some noise, he said, and to get in that trouble, that good trouble of which he spoke so often. Good trouble to make life better for others. And of course, that's what he did as a young boy going to Atlanta to meet his hero and his inspiration, Martin Luther King Jr. And in doing so, John did not march alone, neither across that bridge nor across life. Lillian Miles Lewis was John's partner, not only in life, but in his activism and advocacy. She was a true partner. As I believed myself to be a true brother, she was his partner. Her tenacity, intellect, and political acumen were extraordinary assets to that partnership and to the movement they helped lead and inspire. This foundation will ensure that their shared commitment to creating a more just and fair world for all will not have died with John Lewis. And it will endure long into the future by elevating the voices of those who cherish the values that he cherished. We have heard some of those voices already tonight, but there are 2 others who deserve special recognition, who I'm honored to introduce. But before I do that, Time magazine asked me to write an article about my friendship with John Lewis. And I wrote that article. And I said some of the things I've said here tonight, but in that article I said that John Lewis was the most Christ-like human being I had ever met in my life. No guile, no artifice, no hypocrisy, honesty, integrity, passion, principles, character. That was our John Lewis. We miss him. But the good news is John Lewis is in this room. He's in the head and hearts of every one of us. And every one of us thinks about, what would John do? We will have now the pleasure of listening to Charlayne Hunter-Gault, who, in addition to being one of the first 2 black students to desegregate at the University of Georgia, has caused all sorts of that good trouble about which John spoke during her distinguished career as a foreign correspondent, particularly covering the injustices of apartheid. Additionally, we'll be joined by renowned rap artist Common, whose music captures the same compelling truths that defined our John Lewis and his approach to the challenges of civil rights in our country. Let me read just 3 lines from the movie Selma and the music that won the award. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Now you're all saying to yourself, he ain't no John Legend, I'll tell you that. Amen. I tried to tell the bank I was John Legend. They said, you can't cash that check, Mac. Listen to this line and think of John Lewis. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. Comment that as a great line. John Lewis thought of justice for each and every one of us. He was that specific. On this incredible evening, my only regret is that John isn't here with us. But as I said, he's here and he's here. And for some of us, he's here too, right in our gut. Just last March, I returned to the Edmund Pettus Bridge for the first time since John passed away. I could feel him walking beside us, as he had done so many times. He walked with the wind. We walked with his spirit. Indeed, at times like these, when we're stunned by the pain and grief of events like we saw in Buffalo and Laguna Grove this past week, John's spirit both comforts us and compels us to action. I remember sitting on the floor of the House of Representatives with John Lewis saying, "We will not be moved." As he said, when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to stand up, speak out, get in the way, and get in trouble. Good trouble. Necessary trouble. When insurrectionists stormed the Capitol, knocked down the poster, which I have in the front of my office, outside of my door, with those words that I just enunciated on them, his spirit urges us to keep our eyes on the prize. Keep the faith. Keep the faith, he would tell us. Keep marching forward. Tonight, as all of you, I feel so fortunate to have known John Lewis, to be his brother, his friend, this extraordinarily decent and principled human being who taught us all how to be better, how to be our best selves. This foundation will serve as a bridge between John's unwavering advocacy for those facing injustice, poverty, and disenfranchisement, and future generations' continued pursuit of those same objectives. With the help of this foundation, we will continue to march even forward, ever forward, to face the rising sun of our new day begun, till victory is won. God bless you, John.